Greetings folks, welcome back to the channel where today we look at another flower in the 50 Flowers in 50 Days series. The plant that we are looking at today is a member of the Lamiaceae or the mint family. The plant is known as Hedge Woundwort or Stachys sylvatica. Today, in the last days of June 2025, in these exceptionally hot temperatures, we set out to find yet another gullet flower in the series, having found Botany, self-heal and white dead nettle. Hedge Woundwort is a zygomorphic flower, that is to say, a flower with a bilateral line of symmetry. The flower is two-lipped, consisting of an upper hood and the lower three petals, of which the central petal is the largest, contains nectar guides and a long groove guiding the insect's tongue, as can be seen. Through centuries of evolution, the plant has evolved to place a specific pollinator in the optimal position for cross-fertilization to occur. The inflorescence consists of a dense spike of red-purple flowers in a whorled fashion at the top of the stem. The stem of Woundwort is typical of the Lamiaceae. It is both square and hairy, so to stop unwanted insects climbing into the flower. Sadly, the grace and beauty of the Woundwort flower is somewhat let down by perhaps its most obvious characteristic, which is an unpleasant foetid smell, particularly when the leaves are crushed. The leaves of Woundwort, whilst resembling nettle, do not sting, hence the term dead nettle. The leaves of Hedge Woundwort may be described as ovate, leading to a point with a heart-shaped base, i.e. cordate. The leaves are stalked and the margins of the leaf are sharply toothed. The plant is known by a number of common vernacular names, none the least Hedge Woundwort, white spot hedge nettle, wood hedge nettle or wood woundwort, all fairly self-explanatory. The Latin binomial is even more straightforward, with the prefix stachys meaning spike of flowers and the suffix sylvatica meaning of the wood or of the forest, roughly translating to spike of the forest. The taxonomy leads us neatly to the habitat. The habitat is broad-leaved forests and woods, rich mixed boggy marshy ground, parks and waste ground, such as grassland, hedgerows, meadows, parks, swamps, wasteland and woodland. Welcome to my channel folks, Wildlife Ranger here on YouTube, where today we've come to look at a plant as part of the 50 Flowers in 50 Days series in the family Lamiaceae, to which today we have found three different species. The plant that we are looking at today is known as Hedge Woundwort or Stachys sylvatica, and also today we found specimens of Botany and self-heal, all part of the same family. Critically, the habitat that we are in today consists of a damp hedgerow. Directly behind me is a meadow with damp flushes, which maintains the hedgerow in a damp and favourable condition for Hedge Woundwort. The plant, which is to my immediate left, consists of an upright, packed inflorescence of purple flowers with white markings. The upper lip is convex and has dense, hairy, glandular hairs. The lower lips, which of there are three, has a centre lip which is larger and serves as a landing platform for pollinators. The flower itself has 4 stamens, 2 long and 2 short, 5 sepals, and is pink or purple in colour. The leaves of the plant are alternate, staggered, alternative to maximise light, and are very typically in the form of the structure thus: a cordate base, heart-shaped, with a toothed edge and velvety hairy. The plant is very hairy. It is not a stinging nettle, hence the name hedge nettle, but it does not sting. It's a dead nettle. And that's the overall leaf structure, which alternates up the stem to the top of the fluorescence. Now, one thing that does distinguish this plant is the rather fetid smell. It really has a very distinguishable fragrance, like all of the plants in the mint family, who are adept at producing essential oils. It just so happens that the essential oil it produces in this plant actually mings. There is the possibility only of one confusion species, and that is the Marsh Woundwort. The Marsh Woundwort Stachys pallustris is fairly easily distinguishable by the leaves. The leaves themselves are lanceolate. This is not Marsh Woundwort, by the way, but that is a lanceolate leaf that would join the stem in a fashion without a stalk. So potential confusion species: Stachys pallustris or Marsh Woundwort. The other thing to say about the plant is the medieval herbalist John Gerard, from the point of view of medicinal herbalism, advocated it very strongly for the treatment of wounds. And when we get a plant used in this way, the general term that is applied to it is a vulnerary. So the plant was used traditionally in wound healing. Just generally speaking about the plant in the family Lamiaceae, it contains the two key characteristics: the zygomorphic form of flower and the very typical stem, which is square, that you see in the Lamiaceae, which is a rough, rigid, four-sided square stem, which is hairy. And the plant is overall very hairy, but its main feature is actually the smell. And to recap on the habitat, we're in damp hedgerow, adjacent to a meadow directly behind me with meadow flushes, directly underneath a pylon which is periodically cut back to stop trees from shorting it out. And here in the hedgerow we find an example, I don't know if you can see it, of the rather smelly Hedge Woundwort Stachys pallustris, which is also known as hedge nettle or white spot. Hi folks, we've come to another habitat for the Hedge Woundwort Stachys sylvatica, just because it's easier to image at this location. Here we can see the alternative leaf structure and the upright spike of inflorescence, and of course a rather fetid smell from the plant. It's also an opportunity to introduce the loop or magnifying lens at work. So obviously the plant at the moment is being illuminated by nature's evening sunlight, but let us use the loop just to show you the value of it. If we peer into the flower, we can immediately see that it consists of a convex upper hood with glabrous hairs, and it also, if we look further into it, can see it consists of at least 4 stamens. And the overall colour, if we look at the lower petal, which consists of 3 petals, the largest of which is the biggest as a landing pad, we can obviously see on that there is a groove in it for the insect's tongue, a tongue groove to enter into the corolla or flower tube. If we also peer in there as well, we can see that there's a distinct pattern of white on purple and a number of other characteristics which the magnifier allows you to detail. If we move further down the stem, which is typical of the Lamiaceae, a square, coarse, hairy stem, we can see the nature of the hairs and the fact that they are coarsely haired. So Again, these loops come in three sizes: 10, 20 and 30, the 30 being known as a triplet. But the one I use is a ×10 loop, which is adequate for most general purposes. The ×30 loop is likely to show you pollen in some detail as well. So the use of a botanical loop or a magnifier is absolutely essential when it comes to looking at the descriptive characteristics of flowers and plants. There is not much more we can say about Hedge Woundwort Stachys sylvatica, except it can be readily confused too with the Marsh Woundwort, although the leaves are different. They are lanceolate, so really it's fairly distinct. Here you can see the general presentation of the plant: 3 inflorescences branching off, the main stem, and obviously leaves alternating in direction. As we move down the stem, those leaves get bigger. The actual leaves themselves, if we look at them, they are oval with a cordate base, meaning it's heart-shaped, and the edges are toothed with round or serrated edges. So to summarise that, the margins of the leaf are serrated or toothed, and the base of the oval leaf is heart-shaped or cordate, using the botanical terminology. The following is the range of loops referred to in the clip, and there is a link in the video description for essential and useful field equipment. As always, before we take a trip into the field, we look at the features and characteristics of the plant, which will enable us to identify and find it, commencing with the flowers. As stated, the plant is a member of the milk family or Lamiaceae. It is a perennial with rootstock with subterranean runners. It grows up to a height of 60 centimetres, and the inflorescence consists of a dense terminal spike of purple to red flowers with white markings which serve as nectar guides and are approximately 13 to 18 millimetres long. Each flower of Woundwort consists of a two-lipped corolla, of an upper-lipped hood, and a lower-lipped platform of 3 petals, hence the term labiate. The petals are purple-red in colour. Of the 5 petals, the upper 2 are joined to form a hood, and of the lower 3, the mid-petal is by far the largest and has a groove to guide and position the insect tongue down the long narrowing corolla, where it narrows before the nectaries as it narrows to the point. Hedge Woundwort Stachys sylvatica flowers slightly earlier than Marsh Woundwort Stachys pallustris and can be seen flowering between the months of June and September. To those new to botany, we clarify the term gullet flower. The general term is usually applied to bilabiate flowers, which are usually pollinated by bees. The gullet flowers have a tubular corolla which extends over the greater part of its length and has a very narrow base, protecting the nectaries from all but the insects with the longest tongue. Such families include obviously the Lamiaceae, which we have looked at in detail, the Orchidaceae, and the snapdragon family, also known as the Plantaneaceae. It is not the intention of this episode to deal with the confusion species. However, as always, we include 2 slides to point you in the right direction. None the least the Marsh Woundwort, where the leaves differ and are lanceolate in form and flower at a slightly later date. So, in the remainder of this video, let us allow the plant to speak for itself. Turning our attention to the leaves of the plant, which are opposite and on long stalks. The leaf shape may be described as oval, leading to a point with a heart-shaped or cordate base. The leaves are hairy with large regular tooth margins, and the stem is typical of the family Lamiaceae, which is both square and hairy to stop unwanted insects. Well folks, that brings another episode to an end. Once again, thank you very much indeed for watching. If you have liked or enjoyed this content or found it interesting or educational, please like, share or subscribe this channel to help it become a success and bring you more episodes in the series. Let us hope in summers to come you will record the colour and scent of this fragrant friend. So folks, in the words of Maggie, our international symbol of floral appreciation, whatever the weather may be, go outdoors and enjoy it.